got fantastic talent, no doubt about that.
Focusing on that midfield area.
Fox Sports FC on a Monday. We are live and we are loving it because the UEFA Champions League draw has just been made and we get the fun times to analyse all the games. There's so much to talk about in the company of Chevy Singh and PJ Roberts. So we wanted to make this show a 1 hour show, but PJ has to go home. He's got a curry on the table and he wants to enjoy that. So we're keeping it to the 30 minutes. Let's get straight into it. Let's show our viewers the draw that's been made. We're in the round of 16 of the UEFA Champions League. This is where the draw is finished. There's no continuation of this draw. They redraw again at the quarter-final stage, and from there on in, the bracket is set. Juventus at home to Tottenham, Basel, Manchester City, Porto against Liverpool, Sevilla, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, Shakhtar Donetsk against AS Roma, Chelsea against Barcelona, and Bayern Munich get Besiktas. First of all, gentlemen, what's the tie of the round? Can you agree on this?
I've got to go with Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain for me. It's good to see Man City's good form continues with a good draw as well, picking up Basel, which was probably the pick. But I've got
That's probably the pick.
I've got to pick Real Madrid.
Go with Real, PSG. Do you agree, Chevy?
I think Chelsea, Barcelona for me.
Yeah.
I think there's history. You know, you remember from Jose Mourinho's time at Chelsea, and you remember Andres Iniesta scoring at Stamford Bridge in the 95th minute. So there's plenty to end. It's Antonio Conte this time up against Valverde. For me, I mean, that is really, really interesting. I wish we hadn't drawn Juventus there.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's continue first of all then with Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain. Neymar, one of the greatest players in the world, certainly gets an awful lot of attention, but there's a bit of disruption going on there. It doesn't seem to be all happiness and full of joy over there at Paris Saint-Germain. But then Real Madrid not going brilliantly domestically either, PJ, are they?
No, exactly. And look, Real Madrid won the Champions League twice in a row. They're dreadful in our Liga at the moment. Turned a corner on the weekend where they gave Sevilla a nice hammering. They've got the Club World Cup where they've got to deal with before the winter break. So for me, it could be a little bit of a turning point for them, but coming up against Paris Saint-Germain, out of all those teams, they're the new kid on the block in a way. They're the new kid on the block that are spending money, that have really clearly announced what their ambitions are. What a round here to try and knock off the current title holders. It's probably the tie that no one really wanted to pick up Paris Saint-Germain because of those reasons you mentioned. You're not 100% sure how they can line up and how they can approach the game, given it is a little bit of disruption behind the scenes.
Yeah, if you remember PSG, they were destroyed by Neymar after everybody thought, Barcelona were dead and buried. But Neymar literally single-handedly destroyed PSG, and now he's going to be in a PSG shirt up against Real Madrid. I mean, there's so many factors in there that just makes it very exciting. Mbappe was the star man in last season's Champions League, even though Monaco didn't win it. But he just burst onto the scene in a big way, and he's going to be wearing a PSG shirt as well. So yes, for me, it's going to be the tie that's going to draw, rather attract the most attention, definitely.
We'll try and do this with all the ones that we look closely at. Then who's going to win it?
Barcelona.
This is the game between Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain, though, Chevy. Who's going to win that tie?
Okay. I mean, overall,
we'll
Barcelona
get to Barca,
will win. No, I think it's going to be PSG.
Right.
I think they've learned lessons from last season, and they're not up against a great team. They're up against a team that can self-destruct. I mean, I talk about Sergio Ramos. Always likely to get a red card at some point somewhere. So right now, I'll pick PSG to go through.
So Ciron to be dumped out, according to Chevy, PJ.
I think Real Madrid. I think they're turning a corner now.
Love it.
I think they're turning a corner. Ronaldo with a couple of goals. I think they're going to win the Club World Cup. They're going to smash the couple of teams that they're playing in there. I think they're going to turn that corner. But exactly like Chevy said, I can understand exactly why he's saying it, because you could either really go either way here.
So Chelsea and Barcelona, that was the other one that you couldn't agree on what was the tie of the round. How do we see that one going, Peach?
Yeah, Barcelona. I find that.
Yeah.
But, oh gosh, it's great, isn't it? When we're looking at the draw, I think there's probably 4 teams that you'd be happy to get. All the others are difficult. I think Barcelona, for me. I think Chelsea are just not in great form at the moment. But again, it's such a different atmosphere, sudden death. Barcelona still. I was trying to talk myself out of it, as you can see.
Does Conte relish that kind of a tie, or would he have been looking for something a little bit more straightforward?
No, I think with Conte, Barcelona is great. It's a great draw because there's no pressure on Chelsea now. All the pressure is on Barcelona. Barcelona have got Leo Messi. Obviously, Eden Hazard has been in great form for Chelsea. This is the perfect stage for Hazard. To stand up and say, I want to be in the best 5 players in the world at least. And I have to show that against Barcelona. I think Chelsea can shut out Barcelona. I mean, without Neymar, it's Suarez and Messi. I don't think they're as flamboyant as they used to be. I think in midfield, I don't think that Busquets, I think, is slowing down a lot as well. So I'm going to go with Chelsea going through, even though my first pick was Barcelona for the title, but I think tactically,
this one-off game, this one-off tie,
could outwit Valverde.
Well, the tie that really caught my eye, and it was the first one to be drawn out of the bag or the hat or whatever implement it is they draw things out of, was Spurs and Juventus. And I immediately looked at Shebby as a Spurs fan, and he looked to the skies and turned away from me, and I couldn't quite tell whether he was grimacing or smiling. What were you doing, Shebby?
Yeah, tactically, Juventus, have the upper hand. Going forward, Higuain, Paulo Dybala, Dybala is a magician as far as I'm concerned. If they can keep their defensive discipline, Juventus, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. Right now, if you ask me to pick one, I would say I'll put Juventus as slight favourites because Spurs have not been consistent, have not hit a certain level consistently. They can be up there, Steve.
That's
they can
true.
go down there. And Juventus, well, forgive me for saying this, they could turn this into a very, very boring tie and get away with it.
That's true that that Spurs haven't been consistent during the course of the season, PJ, but they seem to have saved their best for the Champions League, and they've been very impressive in that tournament.
They have been, and I think it's almost and I can understand where Chevy's come from, because Juventus is one of the traditional stalwarts of this competition.
Right.
Traditional European powerhouse. Tottenham, not, and no disrespect, but coming on the scene and really stepping up. So there's almost this novelty factor, this enthusiasm factor that this young squad, how are they going to react? And I think it's going to work really well for them. Exactly like Chevy mentioned, Italian, Serie A, Juventus, tactically, defensively, incredibly disciplined, can shut out anyone on their given day. But Son Heung-min in great form, and Eriksen and Harry Kane with his goal-scoring prowess. It's just this aura around Tottenham in some ways that you put the shoe on the other foot, and Juventus, seeing that they're coming up against Tottenham, again, it's almost like a lucky dip. Because they are quite new to this whole situation, they are really difficult to read because you don't have any real legacy of them in this competition.
All right, so we've created a little bit of history. England have 5 teams in the last 16, first time that's ever happened. And just looking at the draw with City against Basel, Liverpool against Porto, Man United against Sevilla, isn't it possible they could have 5 teams in the last 8? We'll come back and we'll look at the English Premier League and also the Bundesliga. Really big weekend in the English Premier League, wasn't it? The Manchester derby and the Liverpool derby. What came of all of that is that Jose Mourinho has found a new, polite way to criticise the referee.
But, like last season, it's a huge penalty in a crucial moment of the game. but I have also to say I feel sorry for Michael Oliver.